Welcome back, everybody, to another life lesson learned courtroom episode of Lockdown 23 in 1. Today, like I said, we're going to be learning a valuable lesson in the courtroom. It doesn't matter if you're the one pulling the trigger, driving the car, if you're with your homeboys and someone ends up losing their life behind a crime that all y'all were kind of in on. It doesn't matter how it plays out. Chances are almost every last one of y'all are going to be paying the price for it. So this episode is a prime example of birds of the same feather get sentenced together. Now, before we get into the courtroom of witnesses sentencing, I'm going to break down the situation. But first, as always, if you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is absolutely where you need to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my beautifully assorted playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. It says, one of 3 people charged in the death of a mother struck by her own car while trying to keep it from being stolen, with her sleeping child inside, pled guilty. Gerald Dowling, 20, appeared at a hearing in connection with the July 11, 2024 death of Alexis Stakely. He pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, a first-degree felony. Franklin County Common Pleas Court judge will sentence Dowling after a pre-sentence investigation is completed. He faces up to 16 and a half years in prison. Stakely, a 29-year-old mother, died after being struck by her own Honda CR-V, which she was trying to keep from being stolen as her 6-year-old son slept in the back seat. Dowling and the 2 others, which were teenagers, were accused of stealing Stakely's Honda CR-V around 1:25 a.m. on July 11, 2024, while she was picking up her son from a babysitter. And per usual, this is a very tragic situation. My condolences go out to the victims' loved ones. Stakely worked as a speech-language pathologist for Winchester Trail Elementary School. Wow, very, very tragic. She also worked part-time job as a waitress to help support her son. After Stakely took her sleeping son out of the CR-V, which she left running, she went back to the doorway to meet the babysitter to get his belongings. Stakely then saw her CR-V being backed out of the driveway and ran after the car. The CR-V hit Stakely, knocking her to the pavement and causing a head injury that proved fatal. The vehicle was found abandoned within the same townhome complex, probably because they realized there was a child in the back seat. They probably took off so fast they didn't even realize it. Assistant Franklin County Prosecutor Dan Leonard said that Dowling told police he became scared after hearing a woman, believed to be Stakely, screaming. The prosecutor said that Dowling never got into Stakely's vehicle and fled the scene. Stakely died later that morning. An autopsy confirmed Stakely died as a result of blunt force trauma and a fractured skull. So, like I said, it didn't really give too much details on what this guy was even doing at the scene. He wasn't in the car, so maybe he was just, being a lookout, or maybe he was off on another street committing crimes. I'm not quite sure. Like I said, I'm waiting on the judge to break down a little bit more of the situation because I can't find nothing detailing it too much, right? So, let us begin.
I know that he has some things that he would like to say to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Mr. Dowling, you do have the right to make a statement at this time. What would you like to say to the court?
Read it. You want me to read it for you? If you can get through it, I would say do it yourself. Can you do that?
I can try.
Okay. All right.
I'm glad he decided to read it as well. I feel as though that takes a little more accountability, even though it's written. I don't really like written apologies, but some people aren't public speakers,
I want to start off by saying sorry to the victim's family, my judge, and my family. Day and night I think of what could have happened different. It is very sad and unfortunate that someone lost their life.
I hate to stop it again, but, when something happens that you had no idea was gonna happen, and you're facing decades in prison behind it, you sit there and think over and over, if only things played out a little bit differently.
Day and night I think of what could have happened different. It is very sad and unfortunate that someone lost their life. Those were never my intentions. This situation haunted me every day since it happened. And today I get a chance to repent for my sins and take my time with respect and as a man. Sometimes things that you can't control happen, and for that there are consequences, and I 100% respect and accept that. I would like to say thank you to my judge for a second chance back into the community I learned from my mistakes. I know things could have played out different. I feel a weight being lifted off of my shoulders today, and I will take this time with an open mind to new possibilities to become a better man. I also want to say thank you to my family for supporting me through this rough patch on my journey through this situation to manhood. And thank you to my attorney for being great and guiding me in the right direction.
I do appreciate your statement.
Good statement. Good statement. Even though it was written.
You know, before we proceed to sentencing, I did want to ask the prosecutors, Ms. Stakely, she was a teacher, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And was it through a private school or Canal?
The Canal Winchester school system.
Okay.
Yep, very tragic. Very
I just
tragic.
wanted to make a comment, and it's tangential to the case, but, you know, the fact that Ms. Stakely worked as a public educator and a teacher and had to work a side job is absolutely disgraceful. And it is, you know, I come from a family of educators. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. My sister's a teacher. My uncle's a teacher. Everyone in my family is a teacher. And the fact that
I hate to stop the honorable judge in his tracks, but it's not looking good for the defendant. He said his whole family, for the most part, he said, is teachers. And the victim in this case is a teacher. So, me personally, I'd be shaking in my shower shoes if I was the defendant.
the people who pull the levers of power refuse to adequately pay and support our public educators is disgraceful and shameful.
Man.
You know, and I'm not blaming her in any way at all. Like, I don't want it to be taken out of context. Like, she shouldn't have to have a second job when she's a teacher. She shouldn't have to be taking her child to a babysitter so she can go work in the food service industry. And I grew up in the food service industry. I worked several jobs. It's an honorable profession, but it is hard. It is difficult. And to work that, you spend all day teaching kids and then go to work at a restaurant or a bar. She should have never been in that position where she had to do that. And it is absolutely disgraceful that we treat our educators and our teachers, the people who take care of our children, with such disdain and scorn, and you just chiseling away at their ability to make a living doing an incredibly important job. It is just absolutely shameful. And Ms. Stakely should have never been in the position where she had to work a second job to make ends meet when she's got, I assume, several degrees and licensure, and she should have never had to work as a waitress or a bartender, or, it's just absolutely, it's shambolic. It's just, it absolutely should have never happened.
Shambolic, I've never heard that one before, but it definitely sounds shameful. But it's not looking good for the defendant again, because not only the teacher situation, but she was working her second job, I'm guessing, in the food industry, and the judge can relate there. He worked in the food industry as well and knows how gruesome it can be. Even though, I believe the defendant is truly remorseful and had no earthly idea anything like this was going to happen, he's going to pay in some way, shape, or form. That is for sure.
That she would have to be out at, past midnight picking up her child from a babysitter so that she could work a side job to make ends meet. And that has been underpinning this entire situation. And, I would be remiss if I didn't point that out, that she should have never been in this position. Turning to the actual sentencing factors and the facts of this case, I would note for the record that counsel did meet with me in chambers and showed the court one of the security videos of the incident. By agreement of the parties, and Mr. Bowen, Mr. Leonard, Mr. Zizek were all present, I had an opportunity to view it. This is a video that would have come out at trial had we had a trial in this case, and it is heart-wrenching, it's disturbing, it's tough to watch.
Now, like I said in the intro, I couldn't find out too much case details on this situation, so hopefully the judge breaks it down just a little bit more than what I've already read.
The court has a number of factors that it has to weigh in determining what the appropriate sentence should be. the fact is that, and I agree with Mr. Bowen, that it is ghoulish to compare, is one death less worse than another death?
Ghoulish.
But the fact is that Miss Stakely didn't deserve what happened to her.
Nope.
She's trying to do her job. She's trying to do multiple jobs.
Yep.
One of those jobs being a parent. And, you know, having to have a babysitter and go out and work a second shift, you know, she just wanted to get home and probably get some sleep before the next day. And she forgot, you know, a power cord or something that she needed. She runs out, or she runs back into the babysitter's house to grab that thing and comes back out, and
Here we go.
some jerk is stealing her car with her child inside. And it is totally foreseeable that she would jump on the hood to try to protect her son. And I understand that Mr. Dowling wasn't the person behind the wheel. He wasn't in the car, but he was out patrolling, taking stock, scoping out what cars can we break into, what packages can we steal off of people's porches, what can we get away with. And I think the letter from the family, it touched on something that I had thought as I was preparing for the sentencing today, is that you were the adult. You were the grown man. I understand you're 20 now, you were 19 when it happened. You were the adult. You could have walked away. You could have said, no, man, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And I saw it. It was Mr. Hawkins, the juvenile, who his case is still pending. I don't know if he had a guilty conscience, but the facts are in the PSI, and I read them. He turned himself in. He's the one who said you were there. And, you know, this was...
Wow.
There were things, even after the event happened, after she was hit, after she was run over, you could have stepped up and done your part. You could have at least helped. You couldn't make it right. You couldn't bring her back, but you could have done something else. And you didn't do anything until Mr. Hawkins gave your name to the police. And that's how they found you.
Yeah, so, you know, he might look a little innocent by the wording at first. You know, he wasn't in the car, he didn't drive off, but he was there and still chose to not say a word about it. That's a crime, my friend, and you're going to have to pay for it.
And you're the adult. They're juveniles. They should know better, but they, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know, like being the oldest child. You know, it's on you to do the right thing, and you didn't do it. And there is absolutely a punishment that needs to be paid. And I do agree with Mr. Zizek's discussion about deterrence, that one of the purposes of sentencing is to deter future conduct. And I think especially in this case, in a situation where we live in a city and a county where there are a lot of car thefts, this is the absolute worst outcome, and it was totally unnecessary. And you had the ability to, if not prevent it, stop it, mitigate it, make it less worse than it was. Their family waited 2 weeks to figure out what the heck happened and who did this. And that is, you could have ended that waiting, suffering a lot sooner. You know, I do agree that your statements are remorseful, but had he never turned himself in, I don't know that you'd be standing here right now.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't know. It would be an unsolved case. Because I don't believe that you would have turned yourself in on your own. I don't believe you would have had the guilty conscience to say, this thing happened and I saw it and I need to report it.
Very true.
I don't think you would have ever done that, and You're the adult. This is an extremely difficult case, and the court has thought a lot about what the appropriate sentence should be, and I've considered all of these sentencing factors.
And you know, that juvie probably kept seeing the news channel speaking about the situation about that young lady losing her life, and he couldn't take it no more. That's the only thing I could think of on why it would take 13 days for him to turn himself in. He probably finally broke down to his parents, family members, or something, and they convinced him, look, you need to go handle this. They're gonna catch you sooner or later. It's best to handle it now while you're a juvenile.
You know, and I'm accounting for Mr. Dowling's lack of a prior history. I'm accounting for his, you know, not being the primary individual involved in what happened to Miss Stakely and her being run over. The court believes that the appropriate sentence.
Before he goes into the sentence, and I don't care if he was remorseful, Bobby, keep it on tap. Sorry about that, but before he goes into the sentence, and ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section below. Do you feel as though he should be held accountable for any of this? Should he go to prison for something that his friends did, even though they were all there together, just maybe being a lookout? Let me know.
Is that Mr. Dowling serve a term of prison of 7 years at the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections.
He got spared.
The court will consider judicial release when Mr. Dowling becomes eligible, and I will indicate that in the sentencing entry. I will award 380 days of jail time credit. Mr. Dowling, I'm going to advise you and remind you that if you serve the full 7-year sentence, that upon your release, there's a mandatory period of post-release control of at least 2 and up to 5 years. If you violate post-release control, you could serve an additional 3.5 years. I'm giving you the opportunity to file for an early release when you're eligible. Wow. I'm factoring that into the court's sentencing decision that when you become eligible, I will consider you as long as you have demonstrated that you are taking your rehabilitation seriously and that you are committed to fixing the decision-making process that led you here, because you were not thinking that night. You were not being a leader. You were not being an adult. And Mr. Hawkins and the other offender, if you were the adult there, maybe this didn't happen. But you know, Mr. Hawkins will have his own case that'll play out on its own. But in terms of your involvement, the court believes that a 7-year sentence is appropriate. There is a presumption in favor of prison. The court finds that, based on my review of the pre-sentence report, that presumption has not been overcome.
I mean, 7 years. He said he'll be eligible for early release, I believe, within 5. And he got credit for what, 380 days? That's a year. Not including the good time for that state. I don't know what it is, if there is any. This dude probably be out within the next 3 years with good behavior in the system. And like the judge said, he's probably going to a prison with programs to help rehabilitate himself a little bit. Because he's pretty much a short timer for the most part. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Prime example, like I already said. Birds of the same feather get smoked together. And oh man, I bet none of them thought in a million years someone would be losing their life on their little missions to steal stuff that night. And you know, it seems like in these type of situations where, you know, the defendants didn't really mean to kill someone, it always seems like the victims are the most role model type of person. The sweetest individual, you know, so. And you know, that makes the story even more tragic, even though I don't like hearing about anybody losing their life. For the most part, you know, I do enjoy hearing about, and this is going to be our next video coming up, sexual predators getting got in prison. So be on the lookout for that one, man. I got a few stories, exotic stories coming your way. And the only way to do that is by hitting that subscribe, notification bell, setting it to all. Until the next time, though, as always, y'all be easy, be safe, think twice about who you're chilling with, and stay free.